3, 2, 1.
We're getting better.
Yeah.
Right. It's end of the year.
Almost.
It's end of 2025.
Yes.
We're in December.
Yep.
Do you know what that means, AB?
Go for it.
We've been doing the podcast for 9 months.
8-9 months, yeah.
9 months. It started in our first episode rolled out in March, right?
Yeah.
So it's been 9 months. How do you feel?
Relieved, and some level of pride, I suppose, or satisfaction. Maybe pride's the wrong word, but fulfillment, definitely. We've done what we set out to do. Maybe we've overachieved in certain areas, and we've got so many things lined up for next year as well. So,
and maybe we've underachieved, and there are things that we can further improve on. So this episode,
so I'm glass half full, you're glass half empty. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're complimenting each other. Nice.
So this episode, we're going to talk about what we've done, how we've done well, and then we're going to probably have a touch base on the ARB, RIBA thing that's currently ongoing. We had Chris on our previous episodes, and then he's made a stance.
Yep. So,
what we can see what where our point of view is.
Yeah.
And then lastly, give our audience a little bit of an insight in terms of what we're going to do next year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really exciting. I find it fascinating how the nature of podcasts that as a communication style is very sort of common and well received. Because when we ask people to, do you want to come on our podcast? They reply really quickly, and then they all love to have a conversation.
Yeah.
It's so fluid.
Yeah.
We just literally message people that are famous. Well,
and they're like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And I think before we sort of carry on as well, we want to say a massive thank you to those that have supported us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you to CNW, Howells, and then going forward into New Year, E.H. Smith and Donald Insall. Keep your eyes peeled, ears turned on. We've got some interesting things happening. But yeah, I'll let you take over, man.
Oh, I just thought it was a really good. I mean, we didn't give up, right? We're just like sort of consistent with it. I wouldn't say it's already like polished. There's a lot of things that we're learning. It's a constant reflection.
Yeah.
And it's like we're basically babies and infants of the podcast, whatever.
Absolutely.
And it's what's a good parenting is probably asking ourselves what we think about it.
Yeah.
How do we think our episodes or our show or podcast is going? So I think this is the point where I mentioned it's always important if you guys give us the feedback of what you want to listen to, what topics you guys want us to discuss.
Do you want to talk about some of the episodes we've got coming up, or shall we touch up in the end?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's really exciting. We got Matt from Donald Insall. He's a director.
Practice director. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about conservation architecture. We're going to talk about adapt and reuse and why we should be looking. I mean, everyone knows, but having a professional here, that would be great. And then we're going to be shooting at E.H. Smith's studio, the new workshop they have, by Howells. And so that will be very exciting. Yeah. And we're looking at, so just in general, upgrading our content, right? Yeah. So
if you have some questions that might be relevant for adaptive reuse, retrofit architecture, heritage architecture, or any questions from the younger audience as to how you can get into such a discipline, then please do reach out to us so we can incorporate them within our episode.
Yeah.
We've got a series of questions that we've curated and put together, but if you have any additional bits and bobs that you'd like us to ask, please do let us know. That always helps.
And then we got a couple of directors from very prestige offices lined up as well. We've got some social media guys that we've just literally reached out in cold emails, and then they're interested in coming on to the podcast and then talk about their experiences and why they do what they do in like the social media community, like Instagram. And then and we got someone that's like me personally really attached to and very interested in
AI.
We got a very huge AI topic coming up. As we all know that we got this ever since Nano Banana Pro came out. It's been a huge disruption. I wouldn't say discrepancy, but it's everyone's a bit like, oh my god, they can do this now.
Yeah.
And I think with someone like Ismail, who's the frontier of AI in architecture, I have so many questions to ask him about. Where are we all heading to? Are we what we're going to do, right? So we've made posts about this on our Instagram.
And we'll talk about how universities are responding to it as well, because what does that mean for part ones and part twos to be utilizing large language models and all these AI machines out there? Should we be encouraging it, or should we take a step back at an educational level? Because by utilizing it early, does it dull down the brain and the critical thinking? I'm not sure, but I think we'll get some people to definitely. I mean, Ismail's going to be a really good one, but then we can get someone from institutional background to see how they.
For sure. We definitely need to get some institution members to see the ripple effects that it has within the students and how disruptive it is, or how helpful it is. Yeah. Especially when it comes to like really cool Excel drawings and stuff like that. It all of a sudden, instead of actually building a model and pulling it apart, which is actually training your brain to think how does it look? Yeah, what's beneath the surface. Now AI just does it. Does that mean you're just basically relying all of your skills on AI now? And if you haven't got the fundamentals to back it up, does that mean you're just providing prompts and then trusting?
But in order to provide the prompt, you have to understand how the building fabric works, right?
Yeah. So if you don't understand the building fabric, then what are we?
AI will spit out an image, but it won't be accurate. So until you give it that relevant prompt, talk about the building facade, the fabric, the build-up, the more information you give it, the more accurate the production is. Yeah,
this is going to be a very exciting episode. Yeah. So we've got a lot of stuff coming up, and it will be an exciting 2026. It goes back to why we've done it in the first place. It's all about sort of bringing a community together. For me, is very much providing guidance for students. But as time go on, there's further outreach. You know, we've spoken to professionals, we've spoken to students, and it's actually about a dialogue in a very chilled and formal way, right?
Yep. But without further ado, let's get into today's hot topic.
Yeah, today's hot topic. RIBA or ARB.
Yeah, RIBA versus ARB. Who actually does what, and what is the value of ARB and the RIBA?
But first of all, why are we even talking about this? What's the recent
developments?
Yeah,
the news. So
the news.
Yeah. So what prompted this conversation? We weren't actually going to talk about this at all, but what prompted this conversation is a recent news that hit social media and magazines about Chris Williamson, the RIBA president, emailing or contacting the ARB, telling them not to renew his ARB membership, which essentially means he's no longer legally called an architect anymore, or he cannot practice as an architect. So if you have to look at it from two sides, it's a great bold move. You know, the RIBA, the Royal Institute of British Architects, now has a president who is not an architect by membership. Yes, he's done all the studying, but he's no longer an architect, which is a bold move from the RIBA. They're taking a stance against what the ARB offers or doesn't offer. So we'll get into that a little bit. And also, if you look on the reverse side, so if you read some of the comments on these LinkedIn posts and Architects Journal's article, some people have said, well, the stakes are very low for Chris because he's no longer practicing. As he summarized in our previous episode, he's sort of parted ways and stepped away from Weston Williamson and Partners. So he's not actually practicing as an architect. He's representing the RIBA on an international scale. So the stakes are low, but it's still a bold move. And he wants to push for lifelong learning. He wants to improve the image and the offerings of the RIBA. So let's see what this comes to. We'll talk about from our experience, I suppose, what the ARB and RIBA does. I'll talk more from the student perspective. You've obviously been qualified for 4 or 5, 6 years. So you're paying membership. So I think before
4, 5, and 6 is a long distance.
Okay, 6 years, I think. But before we get into like what do they do, let's talk about the costs associated and how many members there are on these different portals, the ARB and RIBA. So we did a quick research. As of 2023, ARB has around about 42,000 registered architects in the UK. And the RIBA has around about 50,000 members, or 44 or 50,000 members, but that spread from students, associate members, as well as architects. So how much do you pay, Daz? Because I don't have to pay for anything. I only have an RIBA student membership, and that's free for me. And that gives me access to certain things, which we'll talk about in a sec. But how much do you pay for your ARB and RIBA? And why are you paying for both?
The thing is actually not about how much I pay. It's how much, if it was for practicing individual, I think those people will be affected the most. If you're an architect and you're on your own and you're doing or even you're in a small practice and you've got to pay these fees.
Mhm.
It's because obviously if you're in a large company, even like CNW, Howells, Foster's,
It's
whatever,
expensed.
everyone it's all paid for you.
Yep.
You don't have to pay yourself. But if you're practicing yourself and you're a registered architect, you need obviously ARB to call yourself an architect.
Yep.
You need that for the registration. And I think I paid $225 this year to renew. Obviously, that will be reimbursed. But then the fees for RIBA is almost £500.
Damn.
It's double. It's double. Up until I met Chris,
Yeah.
I've always wondered why do I pay RIBA a membership
Mhm.
that doesn't actually give me the title.
Mhm.
I don't need it to be called an architect.
Exactly.
And then on top of that, I have to do like 35 hours plus of CPDs
Yep.
just to register. Do I actually even go to these events?
Mhm.
Do I actually get any benefit except for the monthly magazines that I get?
Yeah.
And I'll probably read some hot topics, and then it's something that it keeps saying, "Oh, let's use this magazine to take notes and stuff." But it's just there, I always feel like, why do I pay double the price? So if I was solo, I would be only paying for ARB. Why would I even bother paying RIBA? Because I don't need the RIBA registration to be called an architect.
Absolutely.
Right, and then if a domestic client wants to look you up, they can look you up
On the
through
ARB.
ARB portal and then see that you're registered. Doesn't that give you more of a reassurance to the client? Like you're actually chartered.
Yeah.
You're actually within the professional body. You follow a code of conduct rather than RIBA, which is more like
A club, a membership.
yeah,
Private membership.
it's Royal Institution is more like an institution, right?
Yeah.
So from my own personal point of view, up until we met Chris, obviously, and his vision is always like, why do I bother paying this?
Yeah.
It's £500. If you're solo, you're literally paying £500 for magazines and CPDs. Yeah.
But touching back on that, so let's, for our audience and also for ourselves, I know we've done some research into it. What exactly now do the RIBA and ARB offer? So ARB, to summarize it, it's a government body that came into effect, I think, in 1997, which essentially has been put there as a mandatory requirement to protect the title of an architect. So if you, in the UK, legally want to call yourself an architect, or if you want to call yourself an architect, you have to have an ARB certification. ARB also do and oversee education, part 1, part 2, and part 3, although part 1 is going sometime, I think, next year or the year after. We spoke to Helen about that, remember. What else does ARB offer? It offers protection, not for us or not for architects, but for the public. So for the clients, essentially. I think that's pretty much it. I don't think ARB offers anything else, do they?
You're also required to do CPD, but it's a lot less.
That's only coming recently, right?
Yeah, that's only, I think it's 20 hours. But what's interesting is that you can actually get you can be strike off the register.
Code of conduct, sorry, yes.
Yeah, so there is a code of conduct.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of reassurance to the public if they're looking to hire an architect.
Yeah.
They can look you up, and if you're registered, they have more faith in you, I guess.
But then now you can question now. So okay, fine. So ARB does these 4 or 5 things, but they're not really for the architect. They're very public and client protection related. So what does it actually offer for the architect? Nothing, right?
It gives you a title.
It gives you the title,
it gives you a title, right? And it gives you the right to practice as an architect.
Right.
I guess it's a very legal thing.
So can we argue now? Let's play devil's advocate. We, both of us, I'm sure we definitely know people who practice as an architect, but they're not actually architects. For example, when it comes to domestic house extensions, like if you're from a community where there aren't many architects within that community or particular demographic background, if you study part 1 or part 2, all of a sudden you're now the family man or the community man or the neighbor man. Oh yeah, so-and-so has studied architecture, so-and-so is an architect, go and get him to do extension for you. So I think that's what ARB and RIBA, or RIB in particular, are fighting for now, which is, yes, it protects the title of an architect, but it doesn't really protect the work carried out by people. So where do we draw the line?
You can be very competent, but never a qualified architect, like
Heatherwick. Yeah.
Right. You can be a great designer and never a qualified architect. But at the same time,
So it's not testing the competency of these individuals, really.
Yeah.
You qualify, you've done your part 1, part 2, and part 3. You're on the ARB register now, and you're doing your annual 20 hours equivalent CPDs. But who's testing your competency? Because like Chris mentioned in that episode, which is, I wouldn't go to a doctor who qualified 30 years ago and hasn't done any additional training since. I wouldn't feel comfortable. So same with architects. So I suppose CPDs are those things, but they're not really testing competency. You're just sitting there in a CPD for an hour, hour and a half, and done.
But then to play devil's advocate against that, because we don't really have a side, we're just sort of like laying out the facts. If you're not registered, if you say like if you've done your part 2 and you just say, you know what, I'm not bothered, and then you wanted to get experience in larger companies, the let's say pay gap between if you're an architect and how many years you've been a registered architect to how many years you are as a part 2 is huge. Well, not huge, but there is a gap. Like you can't go in there and say, I'm a part 2, but I've been a part 2 for 10 years.
Admittedly, we do know of cases where people haven't qualified as architects, but they've been working essentially as architects, leading projects in multitude of different scale practices. I mean, we've got a couple of people in here. I don't know what the salaries are, but they've not qualified as an architect, but they've been working at a higher level than just a part 2 or whatever their qualification is, for instance. So there is, I understand what you're saying. In the larger commercial practices, there is qualification does pay to a certain degree. If an architect, yes, okay, now you're thresholded in this salary category. If you're 2 years, 3 years, 4 years post part 3, there is a certain uplift, I suppose. But in reality, what does our ARB offer, for example, for the individuals like yourself? I'm not an architect yet, but what benefit do you see besides the fact that you can legally call yourself an architect? What value does that bring you besides? You're saying salary is one thing?
No, it's not even a salary. Salary is not even a one thing. I think there is a threshold, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
If you're a qualified architect, you recognize that you're chartered and you've been practicing as a qualified architect for 5 years. But then you have to show within your portfolio that you, in those 5 years as a practicing architect, has actually done
competency, for example.
Yeah, has actually done relevant work that make you a competent architect. Whereas you can still be a part 2, I guess, and then show a really good, strong portfolio, and then you could have led projects in your previous practice and then completed projects and still show that same level of competency. What I don't know is whether or not if there is a pay difference between a 5-year qualified architect or someone has been practicing the same amount of time but never qualified.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we put a sentence here in our notes. ARB isn't there to support your career. It's there to regulate your behavior once you're on the register. So what's the saying, when you qualify from part 3 and you officially register on the ARB, people say to you, oh, congratulations, you're now liable or responsible for...
Now you're liable. Now you're welcome. Welcome to the club. Get sued.
Now you can legally get sued. So in reality, I mean, to summarize, ARB, it's a legal register within the UK. You pay £205 or £225 circa per annum for it. You have to now submit 20 hours worth of CPDs. It's there to maintain some sort of legal balance and code of conduct within the industry. And they oversee the architectural education within this country. Part 1, part 2, and part 3 currently. Although part 1...
But funny enough, they don't actually even offer a part 3 course. RIBA does.
Yes, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah. But they stipulate and dictate the criteria that are required.
Yeah, they call the shots.
Yeah.
So...
And then on the flip side now, then, what does the RIBA offer for nearly twice that amount? I myself am a RIBA student member, so that's free for me. And what benefits are there? I get access to certain RIBA events free of charge or a discounted RIBA membership fee. I also get access to certain RIBA approved CPDs.
Do you ever go to the CPDs or do you ever use them online?
Yeah, I have.
You actually
have used them. Yeah.
Have you found
get like £100 credit, I think.
But do you find any CPDs that are actually useful?
I recently, I watched one about the Building Safety Act. It was in 3 parts, so I watched that one recently, and that was really good. And there's one about more on like sort of the entrepreneurial business side of architecture for smaller practices, how they can leverage certain qualifications and qualities to be able to bring in better clients and utilize RIBA contracts and frame them in their day-to-day operations. So I have used or watched some of those CPDs, yes. But then alternatively, okay, so you've got RIBA events you get access to. I've got CPDs. There are RIBA student awards, although I'm not good enough to qualify for any of them, but there are those, so they're celebrating. So it's cultural sort of things. I don't really think.
I mean, the RIBA bronze medal or the silver medal, all of the rewards, they're all very prestigious. And if you can get even nominated in any of those categories, it elevates your portfolio substantially when you go to any of the firms.
Yeah.
If you mention that you are silver. But I remember back in the day when I was part 2, I look at the silver medals or even the nominees just for inspiration.
The website, yeah.
So in some ways, it does provide a platform to
share, celebrate,
to expose, for exposure for your work.
That's from a student level. But for you as a qualified architect, what do you get as part of this £400-500 you pay per year?
To be honest, I think personally I don't do enough to use it, even though because I don't have to pay for it.
Yep.
So I always just thought, oh, the company pays for it. Up until a point where I realized, oh my God, it's actually almost £500. I was like, which is this year. And then when I paid for it, I think it was in the spring, between like February and March. And I was like, what do I actually use this for? Right. But then what I have realized that when I moved to London, there's actually a lot of events that are actually quite useful. And then if they can keep these events going, which they do, I think from an architect, from a community point of view, that networking, that collaboration, social is really important. Like the BAA we always run, but in a more knowledgeable format, whereas rather than just like come in, get a drink.
And remember,
together.
BAA is a voluntary-led initiative, volunteer-led initiative. Sorry, so it's not really. People might get paid as part of photography and creative design and whatnot, but in terms of the people that are running it, weekly, day to day, and members part of it, it's all voluntary. So yes, RIBA has its own groups. I know in London in particular, they've got RIBA North, East, South, West, and all the different regions. So they're doing a lot. We went to the event at Foster's recently about decarbonising for architects. So yes, they are putting on these events to upskill. So in summary, ARB is there for the public, for protection, legal side of things, and RIBA is there for the people within the profession.
Yeah.
So ARB doesn't really offer anything for the people within the profession, so public, and RIBA is more for the people within the profession. So it's more about setting the culture, setting what the profession can be, for instance, going forward, and it celebrates. So it's very much based around culture, but then once again, it does come under a lot of scrutiny. Does it really offer much for the students? I would argue, I think it does. I've seen certain benefits from what the RIBA has to offer, whereas some people disagree. But we can't justify that price tag of £500 a year. I mean, it's a membership, right?
I guess with all the events, doing all the events, and then the CPDs, the magazine, there's definitely more to RIBA for architects as a professional, than just you need this. It is a requirement. There's you can't just call yourself an architect without having chartered membership with the ARB. And I think that's the very clear distinction. But the question is, as an architect, if you've gone through your education and everything, you would get the ARB title.
Well, you're legally required to.
Yeah, even just for your own mental
satisfaction. You've studied for 7, 8, 9 years.
Exactly. You would want to get the ARB title.
Yeah.
And then once you get the ARB, you would weigh up, do I need RIBA? But I think by that time, you would want to continue your growth as an architect. You would think, right, where in the world does anyone offer continuous growth for a professional? And then that would lead you to RIBA, right?
Once again, I'm going to play devil's advocate there. I'm sure there are other industries, they have similar offerings, CPDs, events, networking opportunities. So other industries do it.
Why can't they two merge? Because ARB and RIBA, if they had merged.
Yeah, so that's we're going to come on to that. But so RIBA doesn't have any regulatory power at all, right?
Right.
ARB does, and it's government backed, whatever. But ARB actually engages in dialogue with the government, so it doesn't quite make sense. If ARB is the government body, then why is it not dealing with it? I don't know, but RIBA represents the people to the government. So maybe in the recent years there have been shortfalls from the RIBA in regards to the level 7 degree apprenticeship. Maybe they didn't act fast enough and quick enough, the previous presidential body, but now they are trying to get some sort of return for us in terms of increasing the age limit and ensuring that level 7 degree apprenticeship remains. So they are advocating for change. But then you're right, if the two merged, then would it not be best of both worlds almost? You've got the governing body, you're on the register legally speaking, you can call yourself an architect, but then you're also getting all these cultural side of things such as events, exposure, promotion, CPDs, and then lifelong learning. I know Chris spoke at length about it. Once that comes into play, I think that will be a real big driver for the RIBA. Because at the moment, if you want to specialize in, for example, passive house, you're having to go externally. You're having to go to BRIAM or going to other organizations, passive house, or the group's called Trust, and then you have to do a qualification with them. But if lifelong learning brings and combines all of this together in one platform under the RIBA's name, great, it's all there.
And it should be
singing and dancing
under one platform.
It should be, yeah.
It should be. It should be a platform where architects, if they register, they're qualified. They can call themselves architects, and then as a community, as a group of institution, a professional, there should be a continuous learning provided for those architects as well as protection for the public. And at the same time, architects can benefit from lifelong learning, CPDs, and social events and network gathering. So then you have a holistic group of protected body, rather than just we just have ARB and that's just for the title.
Exactly.
And then you got a separate group that's doing something for the actual professionals. My biggest question or concern or question is who actually has more influence in the government?
RIBA.
Because when they're looking to change the student financing thing, or when they're looking to change the whole
apprenticeship.
Apprenticeship program, who has more influence in the parliament? In the government, because right. So you're right. Coming back to the whole, why do you still need ARB if there's just a body to give you a chartership, but they're not looking after its professionals? What's the point?
But you just made some mentorship. We totally forgot about mentorship.
Right.
RIBA, we've got events and CPs, blah, blah. But RIBA has a massive offering of mentorship, which is, I think, hugely valuable for the student body anyway. You get paired up with a practice and an architect from a practice in your final year of, I think it's undergrad, and you get to experience what it's like to work in practice, what practice is like day to day, but also getting that support, additional tutorials and portfolio support from qualified architects. I think that's a massive benefit for the student body. And remember, RIBA membership for a student, it's completely free. So that's a massive plus side. Although the ARB governs the architecture education, it doesn't actually offer anything in terms of progress and professional development. So you're absolutely right. I mean, one body is governing the profession and overseeing the education. Other bodies trying to make that better, more equitable, accessible, blah, blah, blah. But they're not bloody talking to each other.
It's quite funny. It's like one of the biggest collaboration professionals in the world, architecture. It's all about coordination. It's all about talking to each other, talking to your mechanical engineers, instruction. But then the two bodies that actually either helps or govern the professionals doesn't actually talk to each other. It would be, I think, saving everyone's a lot of time and headache if they merged, or if they have somehow bridged the gap between each other. Like student bridging the gap between professionals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Maybe we should all advocate something a bit more holistic, something that's a bit more cooperative rather than why ARB, why RIBA? Why not ARB, RIBA?
I mean, look, understanding the differences now, it doesn't resolve the problem. It, I guess, gives you a level of agency to make your own decision.
Yeah.
Of course, legally speaking, for those that are qualified, you need ARB. But will you stand in solidarity with Chris Williamson now and members who already have posted LinkedIn say, yep, I've also emailed our ARB. I will not be renewing my my membership. For those that are qualified architects, where does that put you? Where does that leave you in this situation? In this, as the Architects General called it, RIBA goes to war with ARB. Really provocative
maybe this
title happens now. Yeah, with the
maybe this is a bit of the nudge that ARB needs. I'm not
taking action.
I'm not on anybody's sides, but after even just having a conversation with you and us talking through it, there isn't a lot that we are benefiting as a professional. We're benefiting from just being an ARB chartered member, but at the same time, I hate to see that there's actually this sort of separation between the two. So I think we all need to have a think about this, and then.
As I was going to say, let's open up the dialogue with the listeners now, which is, look, we've got 3 questions for you here. What do you think the ARB should do differently going forward? Number 2 is, has the RIBA membership actually done enough to support you, whether you're a student body or the profession? And then if you are a student, where does that leave you? What do you feel more inclined towards? When you qualify, would you register with the ARB because you have to, legally speaking, or will you only stick to RIBA and stick in support with the current movement? What do you do there? I mean, I'm a student myself, and I'll answer saying I'm in a fortunate position where my employer will pay for either of those memberships, so I don't mind. But if I was practicing independently as a sole practitioner, then legally speaking, I'll need an ARB qualification, right?
There's also one thing that we didn't mention is RIBA chartered practice, and then that obviously has more not just more ring, but more trust, more faith in the practice.
Let's talk about that, actually. So do you really believe that on a commercial scale, or even on a domestic scale, do you really think clients give a ignore my French there, right? That clients actually give a about whether you're RIBA registered or not?
It's about credit. It's about your accreditation. Like, you can obviously demonstrate your work through your website, your portfolio, amount of worth, and you actually...
Yeah, but everyone is now, we're an RIBA or registered practice, we're an award-winning practice, we're this, we're that. Like, let's really be honest here, right? It's always down to fees.
Yeah.
Unless you're a very bespoke type of client. So I can talk about, so for example, like Cambridge colleges, they will not just give a job to every architect. They want certain type of practice, like Grafton, Al McLaughlin, Weston, Stanton Williams, Field and Fowles, these sort of practices. They're not just going to give a job to someone from, they're from Birmingham, they've done award-winning work according to the website. Like, they'll only give to select practices because they share a certain value.
What distinct them from the practices that are in Birmingham?
I think it's the type of projects they've done, the type of
so it's not
narrative behind their work.
So it's not really, it doesn't really matter whether if they're ARB registered or
it does, I mean,
chartered.
Grafton, for example, they won't be either, I don't think, because they're Irish-based.
They must, obviously when you bid for work, you have to show competency within your portfolio, and then when you submit a bid, you have to show the things that you've done as a practice to take some of the very important boxes.
But those competencies aren't supported by ARB or RIBA. I don't think it's about what you've designed, what you've delivered, what competitions you've submitted work for, and what competitions you've won. I think that is the demonstration of competency. I don't think they look at, so and so's RIBA registered, so and so has this many ARB architects. I don't think clients really care. I don't know. I mean, this is from my perspective. It'd be great if there are any developers listening. Let us know, because I do not believe developers really even look at website, so and so's award winning. What does that mean? You know what I mean? Every time.
I mean, award winning has a ring to it, but
do you think so?
I think so. I think if you won an award for good design.
I mean, look behind us, right? We've got so many awards there for CNW.
Yeah.
Howells have so many awards. AA has so many awards. Yeah. So everyone's got awards.
Yeah.
Glancy has awards. Doesn't matter what the award is. As soon as you've got one small award or nomination, all of a sudden you're award winning. How do you really distinguish? I think it goes back to that point that Chris said. We as an industry,
specialty.
Exactly, specialism. But we as an industry have to come together to ensure there's a certain threshold or certain target that we're all working towards, certain quality. And this goes back into the whole catch-22 about fees. If there's not enough fee coming in from jobs, there's not enough fee to distribute amongst everyone else.
Yeah.
So whether you're award-winning or not, I don't really think it matters. Whether you're RIBA chartered or ARB registered, I don't think it matters. It's down to what sort of work you've been carrying out.
So it all comes down to individual,
Yep.
practice-wise,
Yep.
and there's always that zooming in and zooming out, even within the practice. How do we demonstrate as an individual?
Yep.
How do we demonstrate as a practice to show the competency? And how does ARB and RIBA support that?
Yeah.
So I don't know, guys. What do you guys think?
I mean, there are RIBA awards, right? I guess that's one way maybe to be recognized by the RIBA on a regional level and a national level.
And international.
And obviously the international level. I think that's a massive thing.
I think that with it,
that award, I'd probably say, that's a recognition that I'd want.
And that's something maybe that was RIBA's vision of providing a platform to actually show, to maybe that's what Chris has always been talking about.
I think so,
is a platform to show like the speciality and to give people a credit within their portfolio of what they can achieve.
That recognition, I suppose, isn't it? Because then ultimately that will hopefully bring in value to the practice.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at like Grafton, for example, Grafton Architects is a collective of, I think, 5 females in Ireland, or Northern Ireland somewhere. And they submitted a bid for a competition in Milan. That was their first breakthrough out of, into mainland Europe. And they beat the local practices there. And then that became their flagship project, the Bocconi University. And then that then gave them another platform to then apply for other institutional practice.
But it's kind of like Serpentine Pavilion. It's a platform
for you to showcase.
For people that has never built in the UK, international practices like Zaha, BIG is their way of stepping into the UK sort of.
I think that's where Chris was saying on that conversation, which is they need to, because Weston Williamson came about as a result of RIBA's competitions. And I've not really come across many RIBA competitions recently. It's always private competitions. So if there are more RIBA orientated or governed or controlled competitions back within the industry, then that's where smaller practices or even established practices have that platform to contribute, show off their skills, win a competition, and even if you don't win, you still get some sort of remuneration for it. So there's so many different things that we can talk about. But ultimately, let's summarize back again. So ARB governs the profession from the legal standpoint, and it protects the public, like the clients, for example, whereas the RIBA offers, I suppose, development and opportunity for the people within the profession. But if we had a cohesive body of the two together somehow, I think that'd be much better. And so therefore, you're with one body, you pay one fee for your title, for the protection of your title, as well as to have all of these other opportunities such as mentorship, events, CPDs, awards, celebrations.
I mean, for everyone that's listening, why do you guys think that we have two? What would you like to see ARB and RIBA do? Why do you think there's a need for ARB to gain that title, to have that chartership, but at the same time, why do we have a separate entity completely for the professionals ourselves? I mean, I'll be keen to, maybe we've missed out something as well. There's a huge reason why they separate the two. They don't want to mix it up. So let us know if you got any thoughts into this. We'll obviously share clips of this.
And I think, I think this will be a really good conversation to have with some seasoned architects or practitioners, for example, like directors, because we're talking from our standpoint where we're not running a practice, for example.
That's what I mean.
We're simply a part of a larger machine, isn't it, within practice? And I can't really talk too much about it because I'm not an architect yet. But I think if you have like a director on board, maybe from a small practice as well as a large practice.
What differentiates you from an architect? You're delivering jobs. You're doing packages. You're doing construction work.
Yeah, you see, that's the whole bloody catch, isn't it? Which is that goes to my point about, so I can now go into my community in Mosley and be like, oh yeah, you need to extend your house. All right, I'll do it for you. I can do that right now. So that's what I'm saying. I think that's what Chris was arguing, and that's what he's trying to get at, which is ARB simply governs the profession in the sense of you have to be a registered member to call yourself an architect, but it doesn't actually govern the fact that people are still doing the practices and the role of an architect without having a formal qualification. And that's the issue. And I think the underlying issue is at domestic size. It's not as relevant really for the larger practices. it is for the domestic side. So I think that's why it'll be really good to have a conversation with someone who runs a 3, 4, 5 people practice, and then someone who runs a larger practice, because I don't think it matters massively on a larger scale. It is for the domestic size, because look, literally we can go in any neighborhood and we can say, oh yeah, you need an extension, I'll do it for you. Oh, sorry, you're qualified, but I'm not. But we can go together. I can do it myself. And what happens? Nothing. I can be transparent with them, saying, look, I'm not an architect, so therefore I won't have indemnity, or I might have indemnity, who knows? But I can do the planning drawings, or if he needs permitted development, it doesn't need planning, we can do those drawings, we can do building regs, and then give it to Bob the builder, and Bob the builder builds it. How do you differentiate what an architect does? Because an AT can go and do the exact same thing. So that's why we need a clear distinction. So if there's protection for the title, what does that mean exactly? It goes back to the point where, do we need some sort of regulatory body or a regulation which you can't do? Even house extension works, it has to be drawn up and submitted by an architect. So how you have an ARB number, membership number, registration number? Does every drawing now require a number to be put on there, for instance? Because that then brings some level of control back in hands of an architect, for example.
It's something
that's where the issue is.
Other places in the world actually has. There is a policing in terms of who can sign off on the construction drawings and who cannot. And
look at other
you have to be a registered architect to have certain things signed off. Otherwise, you won't get built, because there's a merit to the skill. But then equally, when you're hiring someone, like, for example, your practice is full of part 1s and 2s, and they say, oh, we need some experienced people in here.
Yep.
They normally go to hire a seasoned architect or experienced architects.
Yep.
And what differentiates from that architect is that they've probably built something, they've delivered packages, and they'll be able to run projects from the beginning to the end.
Yep.
Right? And then through all the RIBA stages, funny enough.
Yeah.
So maybe there is something that there is a link that there has been historically a link that we simply don't know about, and then maybe the audience can tell us that we don't know. But it's going to be a ongoing topic.
I don't know, RIBA, ARB, the decision is yours, right? But I think going back and reflecting on the fact that we had a conversation with Chris, that's probably changed our perspective a little bit on the RIBA. But it goes to the point is, I think it's got to be about competency, because you can get anyone going through part 3, for example. If I'm not at that stage yet, you did it. Yeah, it's all about demonstrating your competency. You can demonstrate that you've worked on multitude of different RIBA stages. But in reality, you might never have designed anything. You might not have actually have delivered. You just worked as part of a larger team in larger practices. So in reality, how much do you really know? Because the part 3 exam and the criteria are very much theoretical based. I mean, I tell this to people that are doing part 3 right now. They're like, oh, I haven't got a case study, for example. I'm only shadowing. A lot of institutions actually allow you to shadow. Some institutions don't. Cambridge do not allow shadowing. Cambridge want you to actually work on those stages, contribute on those stages, understand, go on site, design, liaise with planners, liaise with stakeholders. Whereas other institutions actually allow you to shadow an architect, go on site once, take your photo, upload it to your PDR, and done. That's it. You can, oh yeah, I've been on site. That's my competency. No, it's not. So yes, you can have people, like Helen said it in one of the previous conversations, the day before and the day after you get your ARB registration does not mean anything in the grand scheme of things. You're still doing the same thing, because just because you've now finished your part 3 and you've got your registration does not mean oh yeah, I'm an architect. I'm confident enough to deliver my own scheme.
But I don't think that's how it was originally designed. I don't think the whole part 3, in my opinion, I think it was designed to demonstrate that you can run a project and you have built something. But through time, I think it's not diluted, but they have to open the door a little bit so that they can have more people. Because not every because how many projects actually go on site? 1 in every 10 projects, if not
that's
less.
What I'm saying.
So they have to open the door to people to gain that qualification somehow.
Yeah.
And the way that it's designed is to actually get people to go on site. And
but then one may argue, so if you're opening up the door, making it more accessible, right? I'm playing devil's advocate here, by the way. So if you're making it more accessible because there's not as many jobs on site, blah blah blah. Gateway to building safety regulating, there's all these delays. So that means you're introducing more, or you're giving access to more people to be able to qualify, which means you're introducing more architects within the profession. So the more there are, the value comes down, right?
Yeah.
So the financial distribution is spread thin across how many thousands. I think ARB said there's 42,000 as of 2023. I'd be interested to know what the figures are now. But my point is, if there was 30,000 really good qualified architects, really good competent architects, that's much better than having 60,000. Oh yeah, we just all recently finished part 3. You know what I mean? I think maybe I'm not getting the point across here, but the more there are, the less value it becomes. It's about supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many diamonds out there, but they're all controlled by one
maybe
body who dictates the price, the value.
Yeah, and maybe that is not a crisis. Maybe that is a problem that all professionals are facing at the moment, because everyone is getting qualified in one way or another, and maybe the ARB has to tighten up, or RIBA has to tighten up those thresholds.
Absolutely.
But
so I'm not saying
we're here to only just
debate it and play devil's advocate.
Yeah. So,
but I think it definitely would be a really good option. Maybe we get someone who does part 3, who's like, part 3 examiner, for example. I might reach out. I think let's reach out to a couple. I think we've got some in CNW, but there's quite a few in London that I know. Well, I might just reach out to someone at Cambridge.
Whedon used to have a good one, but I don't remember if they're still there. But yeah,
I think we should get someone who's a part 3 examiner. I think that'd be really good to understand it. And maybe I think this conversation does lead to maybe we need a small practice director, or who runs their own small practice, and someone who's running a larger practice of, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 people maybe. We can compare, so it'll be like almost like a dialogue necessarily. Maybe just understand the different dynamics and setups and costs and implications and RIBA, ARB. I think it's a really good conversation, and I think it'll lead to something better.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's probably one of the fewer conversations where we both have a lot to say. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the year ahead.
Yep.
Again, I want to just thanks for all of your support, and this has been a great year, very challenging, also huge learning curve, and then we'll try to keep delivering better content, better conversations next year.
And please do, honestly, like Dad said earlier on, your comments do help us. They do go a long way. So if you have any comments where you think we can improve, if there's something that we can talk about,
subscribe, comment.
Yeah, subscribe, like, share, the full drill. But yeah, please do engage in dialogue with us. I know a few people already do through LinkedIn and Instagram, or sometimes when we meet people in person and events. But yeah, every dialogue that we have with our audience is extremely beneficial to us and extremely valuable. And it allows us to ensure, and gives us a level of validity, I suppose, that we are doing something right, or we're towards the right direction. So yeah, from the bottom of our hearts, as we sound off on 2025, thank you so much for your support, and we hope you can join us for 2026 for much better, bigger and better content.
Look forward to it.
And bigger names, hopefully, as well.
So should we have an outro of goodbye 2025?
Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
Or did you cut that out?